Good. What's up, guys? Zach Evanesh, Strong Life Podcast at the Underground Strength Gym. Jake Tuura, jackedathlete.com and Jacked Athlete Podcast. Jake and I did a podcast. Was it during COVID, early portion of COVID or before?
It must have been about a year ago, yeah.
It's all blur. He was at Youngstown State at the time, college strength coach, but now traveling the country in your Jeep, visiting coaches. I know you picked up some strength and conditioning gigs kind of along the way, but he's doing what I always encourage coaches to do, which is to have an online business. Now you're fully online. And we're going to talk a little bit about kind of his traveling, leaving collegiate strength and conditioning and some cool stuff that he's doing online. So, dude, great to have you in person.
Yeah.
And we had a great training session. Got my ass kicked. Jake was still lifting heavy while traveling a lot. And so, we're obviously in Jersey now, but, I've been keeping up with you. You were in Minnesota. You're from Wisconsin. You were coaching at Youngstown State. You left how long ago?
Last Thanksgiving, so like a year ago.
Oh, yeah. All right. 1 year anniversary.
Yeah.
1 year anniversary. College strength and conditioning could be really brutal. You could work crazy hours, get paid like shit while having a master's degree. And I often have said, like, it's unhealthy. I feel like it's unhealthy because you're hyped up. You're kind of like always in this hype mode. You're training others hyped up. Then you got to hype yourself up to train on your lunch break. And it's usually a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. gig, correct?
Yeah. And I didn't do football. So it's like a lot of the teams, like women's basketball, women's swim, golf, it's like, I love training. They don't love training.
Correct.
So that's what you're working with. And once online took off, it's like, I can just stay online and make my money there and then go learn from other coaches, which I couldn't do being in college,
Which, and by the way, how I came across your work was listening to Travis Mash's podcast with you talking about vertical jump. So he either came across your vertical jump videos or your ebook, and then he had you on the podcast. And I was just intrigued. I was like, boom, here's a smart guy. Started following you on the Instagrams and we connected. So while you were coaching at Youngstown, working, what was your schedule? 6 to 6 about?
Yeah, it depended. Usually probably 6 a.m. because it's like swim, and then
they're always early.
Kind of late in the day. But I had free reign to do whatever I wanted. No one was telling me what to do, so that's what was nice because I don't do well when I'm micromanaged. Right. But then you got basketball games at night, you got competition. So then it's like maybe you're leaving at 10 p.m. Yes. But I would go home. I lived close, so I would go home, come back. But it was a lot of time. And the first year I loved it. I loved the job. But then it's like I got to get paid more. And I have so much knowledge that maybe I'm not really using it, so it's like, because now specializing in jumping and the patellar tendon, I got none of my athletes have patellar tendinopathy, none of them really want to jump higher. Right. They want to be able to compete in their sport. So right now it's like, I love dunking, I love jumping, I love treating knee pain. And now the people online reach out to me with those goals and I can help them.
What was also interesting was when I came across your work, one of our high school kids had knee pain and he was going to physical therapy, chiropractic, and he wasn't getting better, but he was tough. He was playing through it. He's at a D3 school now. So we're going to bounce around a little bit, on the topic of knee pain. When did you create that course? Were you coaching in the university while you created that?
I had, here Wyndham Platt, rugby strength coach.
Yes.
He runs a Strength Coach Network.
Yes.
He wanted me to do a presentation for him, and I did it on isometrics for tendon, because there's just like newer research on holding an isometric hold. Your body is viscoelastic, so when you move very fast, everything stiffens up. But when you move very slow, it can more act fluid, like viscously, the body. Right. So doing an isometric hold, if you take a tendon, when you jump, if you do patellar, talking about the patellar tendon, when you jump, the whole tendon stiffens up, and it works all together as a sheet. And you can do that over and over and over, and then start to get degeneration, start to get problems with the tendon. So if you hold an isometric, it gets the whole thing to relax. And then the areas of degeneration can kind of feel the stimulus. So I gave that presentation, and then I got pretty good feedback from it. So I'm like, now this is my chance to do the patellar tendon. So for 3 months, I sat at my computer for like 4, 5, 6 hours a day and just researched the patellar tendon and reached out to experts. And now I'm at the point where it's like, there's so much content that I have on the patellar. I think I have like 50 free YouTube videos on the patellar tendon. Very complex, but also can be very simple at the same time. Because we just say, let's look at how it happened, look at how we can maybe do the opposite to heal it. So, and it's still evolving because there's so little that's known about the patellar tendon, or tendons in general.
Right. Here's an interesting question though. When you talk about the patella tendon, did you look at any research on how, let's say, like my bicep hurts, holding an isometric position? I know looking at your videos for the patella tendon, it's like we're doing iso holds in a lunge or like heavy iso pulls. What about for did you research like bicep tendonitis?
Yeah. So the patellar tendon is probably like the simplest tendon because it's mainly going to happen from jumping.
Yep.
Like, what does the knee do? It flexes and extends. That's pretty much all the knee does. Flex and extend, and that's the patellar tendon. So it flexes and extends. So just load it with a leg extension or something like that. When you start to talk about the Achilles, that it can get kind of confusing because you have the Achilles at the very end of your leg. Based off of running, like you can be a big pusher, so you can just be torquing the Achilles, or you can have Achilles issues where you're just flopping the Achilles around with like a swimmer or a cyclist. They flop their Achilles around. It's not an actual tendinopathy; it's more like an aggravation. So, and then you get to upper body, and upper body is just confusing. Like the shoulder tendons,
so much is connected.
This tendon, and you can get you're going to get a patellar tendon pain from jumping or from doing the violent type, maybe explosive squatting. You're going to get this. You can get this from typewriting.
Correct.
That's not explosive at all. So it's like, the upper body tendons are much more confusing, but if you have that issue, you can do something like this. But at the same time, it's like, you can focus on the tendon, but there might be something wrong with your shoulder, with your scapula, with your spine.
Yeah.
When you look at the patellar tendon, there might be something wrong with your hip, something wrong with your foot. So everything is connected. It helps to zoom in a lot, but you also got to zoom out and look at the whole organism and say, could something else be the case?
Way back in the day, Kelly Starrett would say, look upstream, look downstream. Like, look what's above and below it. So when you started doing a lot of the research, you also just turned it into content. You would podcast with all these people. I was actually shocked to hear how many of them encouraged leg extension, which was such a taboo exercise, long ago. Why they even spoke about like going as heavy as you could on a leg extension and not actually being able to move it.
Yeah.
So, that interested me. I was like, dude, they're encouraging a leg extension because, with my 4 knee surgeries, if I ever went to physical therapy, that was like such a taboo exercise because it was an open chain exercise.
Okay, so
expand.
You're always going to treat based off of pain and function. Like if someone does a leg extension and it hurts worse, don't do a leg extension, or if you're doing a leg extension super heavy or doing it in a deeper range or something like that, and you're just not tolerating it well, you got to change it up.
Right.
But anyways, so when you have the patellar tendon issue, you can see this whenever the body anywhere gets pain and injury. Like you have this bicep issue, and it's like you're benching. I bet you're going to use your other side more, or you're going to kind of compensate around that area. So if you're trying to treat your patellar tendon pain, and you're doing something that is a compound exercise like a squat, you might just shift to the healthy side, or you might just sit back a lot and not load that area. So the best way to hit the patellar tendon is to do a leg extension because there's no way around it. Also you can do it single leg. You should be doing a single leg because then also you can't compensate with the other side.
Right.
So if you really want to isolate that and hit the quad as hard as you can, just get on a leg extension.
I saw you do it like hanging off the incline bench with like a strap of some sort.
Or even a kettlebell. Put a kettlebell around your foot and just do the extension. So that can be big for the patellar tendon, or people get general knee pain. A lot of times the quad gets inhibited. So that's a great way to just fire up the quad again. Get your brain using your quad again, because whenever you get pain and injury, your brain just wants to shut down everything in that area.
Yeah.
So get the quad, like a lot of it's get the quad back online. And then the calves are really important. The soleus, doing seated calf raises, or even doing some other stuff for the calves.
Old school bodybuilding stuff.
Yeah, so it's always about addressing everything, but always like pain and function. Is the pain improving? Is function improving? And then we go from there. And it can be a really easy process because your knee is always going to tell you if it's going good or if it's going bad.
What's also interesting is like when I'll see you'll do like the Q&A on your Instagram. When people ask you questions, with your research and expertise now, you have them trained. Whereas I don't know, like common knowledge, like usually a chiropractor or doctor, they're always like, stop, don't do anything. But then there's no blood flow. So for example, your Q&A, somebody was asking you a question about, I think it was the patella tendon pain or patella pain. And you were like, you got to do ISOs. You have to lift heavy and it's okay to jump. So what's like the umbrella, how do you say, like the umbrella answer? Okay, your knee hurts. Do you say, I want to see ISOs? I want to see
okay.
some heavy, slow
Well,
lifting.
first of all, figure out what the issue is, because there's could be a lot of things going wrong. Like you could get a fat pad irritation, which if you have a fat pad, we don't know much about the fat pad, but the fat pad sits right behind the patella, the kneecap.
Yep.
And if that hurts, if you aggravated that, resting and icing is what you want to do, because you want to get that thing to settle down. So sorry to make it complex, but it is complex. There's a lot of things that could be going on that you need to treat that way. But in general, if you have the patellar tendon pain, or you just have general pain in the front of the knee, like look at what you want to do. Like if you want to go dunk a basketball, you have to train in a way to build you up to dunk a basketball. Does resting and icing get you back there? No, you have to load. So it's all about loading. It's all about load tolerance of the tissues. So load the tissues so you can get back to that point. Okay. And if you have an injury, so if you want to get to jumping 40 inches and your knee hurts, we need to start loading the area, and the safest way is with isometrics, because it's the least likely to cause pain.
Isometric without weight.
Isometric without weight, isometric with weight, kind of treat based off of pain and function. Do it without weight, progress to do it with weight, then progress to the like squatting or split squatting, and then you can progress back into jumping. So it's this whole gradual process of maybe you used to jump 40 inches and then your knee blew up. Let's go back to square one. Let's do the slowest thing we can, which is an isometric, build back up with the strength work, and then get back into jumping over time. But often people will go, my knee hurts from jumping, I'm just going to rest and ice, and then I'm going to go back to jumping.
I'm going to do nothing.
Yes. And you have the building up is the best, because you got to get the structure, you got to get the structures built back up, and you got to get the brain to think that everything is safe again. And the best way to do that is just loading the tissues. Load the tissues over and over.
I found that, all right, if your knee hurts while we're bending, we can do back extensions, we can do RDLs, we can do iso holds. But it's so, I got to tell you, it's frustrating. You know, I train 100 to 200 kids a day. If somebody's pinky hurts, they stop everything versus work around it. When you mentioned knee pain, the first time I remember my knees starting to hurt, I started just rolling out my IT band a lot and doing more posterior work. And in a matter of days, I was like 99%, felt great. And I was like, it was all right. I had injuries teach you to kind of experiment and figure things out on your own. Your YouTube channel has a ton of training videos, like full workouts that you've recorded. So that being said, Jake, let's go to, I'm just thinking of your product and a kid we're training here. We got a basketball player who's flat-footed. Okay, so he doesn't move very fast. He runs a little awkward. Even when he jumps, it's slow. You have a vertical jump program out. So have you ever you must have worked with kids who are flat-footed. And I remember Jim Wendler once saying, he's like, I didn't think somebody could jump slow. He's like, but I've seen people jump slow. You're like, how the hell is a jump done slowly? So what would you do with a kid like that?
So first of all, I wouldn't have vertical jump the goal. I would have just general human ability as the goal, you know, like, so I have the vertical jump program, but it's pretty specific to vertical jump. And I say, if you can't hit these like I make these guidelines of like, whatever, you can't goblet squat, you can't do this, you can't do a basic warm up without running out of breath, these basic things. It's like, if you can't do basic human things, then vertical jump should not be your goal. You know, so you got a kid like that, just basic training. So an example, what I get for them is 1x20 method, where it's like you do one set of 20 of certain exercises. So that's a great way to build capacity, like with a kid, not give them too much volume, too much intensity, just build them up slowly over time.
What if this kid's fit? He could squat. He's like, I don't know if he's 6'2", maybe 6'3". He's certainly going through that peak height velocity phase where he's growing. But I almost wonder if like his feet being flat, but
that's a hard thing to say, because a lot of people have flat feet and are amazingly explosive. I was
just going to say
so
some of the best athletes I've seen are duck-footed and flat-footed.
Yep. So I think one of the ideas is like, if his foot is just stuck there and it can't actually, there's no range of motion with his foot, maybe one area you could look that's pretty simple is just like the calcaneus, the heel bone, see if it actually can like invert and evert.
Right.
And if it can't, then it's like, okay, maybe that's something to work on, maybe get some manual work done. Or you could even do more barefoot stuff on surfaces that are uneven. And
he'll actually, ironically, he'll train barefoot. He rolls out his feet. I also think there's got to be a genetic influence, right? Like genetically, some guys are fast, jump high, so on and so forth. Although I don't like to tell a kid that kind of stuff. So a kid like that, a high school kid, are you saying, hey, just keep lifting, keep jumping, keep sprinting, and keep playing sport?
That's what it is. That's what when you get further down to advanced level vertical jump, that's what it is too. It's jumping, it's sprinting, it's lifting weights, it's doing basic things. But when you're a kid, you just don't want to push the intensity too much. Because if you take him and say, we're going to do 50 max effort jumps I mean, you might hurt something there, but
Right.
because he doesn't have the capacity to handle max effort jumping. But when you're 10 years into jumping, you can handle a lot of jumping because your body's used to it.
Yeah.
So it's just a slow buildup of those things. But it's just what do people do? They sprint, they run, they jump, they lift things, and it's like that's what you do with that kid. And it might just be a really slow process for him.
I always say it's so simple, it's complicated. People want to complicate it. What about you were just up in North Jersey with Bobby White, high performance, right?
High power performance.
High power performance. What with you traveling around, you were so you're from Wisconsin, but you were working in Ohio. Then you went to Minnesota.
Minneapolis, I went to the gym.
Worked at a gym. Now you've been kind of
just going on the people that I know, learning from them, and seeing what they do. Yeah. So.
What did you pick up from? Let's back up to you went to Pittsburgh. Then we'll go down to Bobby.
Right? Yeah. So I stopped by a lot of places, but I guess Pittsburgh. Where was I? I just talked to some friends. But what was cool about Bobby was Bobby, his gym is in a church, so they have a basketball court and then they have a little weight room section. Which
Jake, I hate to cut you off, but the things I've said this before for coaches when they want to start, and so Bobby's in a church. Right down the street from us is a church with a school, but the school, they don't have school in there anymore. So the gym is rented out to the recreation center. But I've known many coaches who went in churches and just rented and kind of built stuff out rather than getting a warehouse. And I've said what you're doing. If you're a young coach and you're not married, you don't have kids, you don't have responsibilities, get in your car. You mentioned sleeping in your car a few nights. Yeah. Although he has 3 different ebooks, when he's selling, he gets an Airbnb, but it humbles you and makes you tough, which I think is important in this field, even though you're likely said not gonna, you never say never, but you'll probably not go back to collegiate coaching.
Probably not, yeah.
Probably not. So you went to Bobby, he's in a church.
Yeah, so what was cool is with basketball is such a different animal, I think, than other sports. You take, let's just take American football.
Yeah.
Kids are usually doing their season and then they're going the off season. There's a lot of lifting. It's very isolated lifting.
Yes.
They need to build armor. They need to have isolated lifting because they just need that for the sport. And also they're not putting on pads and playing football all year.
Correct.
Basketball players are playing year round. All the time they're playing basketball. So to have a true off season where they're not doing a lot of that stuff and put a lot of investment in the weight room, it's kind of hard to do. And it doesn't really happen. So what Bobby does is they have the lifting area, so kids will lift for a bit.
It's on the stage.
Yeah, but what he does is they have got skill sessions. They got basketball skill sessions where they do some isolated stuff, some things that are more involved, where it's more game-like. But you have the kid. You look at how they play basketball, and then you piece in the lifting. You don't take a kid and say we got 4 hours of lifting per week. We say, how are you looking on the court? What do you think? Okay, what do you look like? Let's piece in a little bit of lifting. Let's supplement with a little bit of lifting. So that works very well for basketball. But other sports, you might want to do more isolated lifting. But the thing with Bobby is it's so centered around the sport, which is the goal.
And he's also, this is what, the Soviets did. The sport coach was the strength coach. That's why they called him the physical preparation coach. And have you ever chatted with James Thinker Smith?
No, but I've listened to pretty much everything.
Right. So James will always say to me, he's like, Zach, if you really want to make an impact, you need to open a wrestling club. He's like, you can coach the wrestling. You're seeing what's wrong with each kid. And then the program is gone to them. I have a coach's eye from training myself since 89, coaching since 95, where I can watch a kid wrestle. Or now that I'm at the high school, I watch them play football and I watch, okay, when somebody is tackled, do they get stopped or do they get pushed back or do they run through a few guys? And then, okay, such and such gets pushed back. He's got to get stronger. Such and such fourth quarter starts to fatigue or maybe starts losing or gets hit and is afraid of hitting or getting hit. All right, you're afraid of getting hit. We probably need to do more cleans where you feel yourself kind of getting hit. So I've always felt like that coach's eye, that art of coaching is powerful. So he's coaching basketball and he does strength and conditioning, such a blanket term. He's what I call a sport performance coach.
Yeah. So you'll take, and with basketball, you take all these skill trainers they do everything like pushing a sled, or maybe they're dribbling a ball, or they're saying we need to do this type of running or all these drills to be specific to the game. And you go to Bobby's and it's like, we cover everything on the court. And then we just go in the weight room, we squat, we hinge, we split squat,
basics.
we push, we pull.
Yeah.
You know, you don't gotta be specific. The specific stuff is the sport.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like you're covering everything because you got a ball. Like take for example a basketball. Not saying you shouldn't do a sprint in a straight line, but you take a basketball kid and you make him do sprints as fast as he can in a straight line with no ball, but you put a ball in his hands and it's completely different. So with Bobby, you're getting both because you're getting full court dribbling, without the ball, but you got to start with the sport. That's the James thing, right? Like look at the sport. That's the goal.
Right.
But when you come into strength conditioning, it's like strength and conditioning becomes the goal and not the sport. And I think that's a big issue.
Yeah. Some of the best athletes I've worked with were like, they just moved shitty in the weight room. And then when you get to that high level, you start realizing like, this is just a small piece of the puzzle. And I gotta, whatever that puzzle is to help them complete the puzzle, I'll do. So it might be if they build more confidence by doing, weighted pull-ups, then that's what I'm going to do because they believe in that. Or I had a kid that didn't like to squat heavy, but he was a super high level wrestler, like Olympic level. So I wasn't going to force him to squat heavy. I allowed him to, it's like meet me in the middle. All right, let's do speed on your squats. And then he liked to do heavy other thing. So he was getting like a nervous system hit from whatever the heavy other thing was. So it's like interesting how you have to learn this, I don't know, like give and take as a coach. I think my younger years was like, this is how we do it, boom. And I've gotten better as a coach. I think by being a dad, I got better because I got to listen to my kids. Even though you're got to give kids boundaries, you have to listen to them and same thing with training girls. I know you trained a lot of girls at Youngstown. I never trained a lot of girls at my high school. I trained the girls soccer team. It's like I teach them how to goblet squat or teach them how to dumbbell bench. You're maneuvering around, then you see like 3 girls benching with the bar, and you're so ready to say, I didn't say we're benching with the bar, but they're doing it anyway. So it's like, now it's like, okay, girls, we're going to squat. You have an option. You could goblet squat for 6, or you could back squat or front squat for triple. It's your choice. And then some of them pick one, some of them move around. It shows you that like there's many ways to achieve the end goal.
Yeah. And I think it's a supplement. Yeah, it's a supplement to the sport.
Be a great athlete. What about you mentioned one of the coaches you met up with in Pittsburgh? What was his name? What was like a big takeaway?
So man, I can't remember. I've met so many.
We were talking about it. You were the guy who had a bodybuilding background.
Oh, Bobby, yeah, Bobby Sapisi. Okay, yeah, he's at California University of Pennsylvania.
Is he on Instagram or no?
No, he's like
good for him.
He's on social media. So that's what. So this
he's
is
already my hero.
So he actually is, but he's not on there. So that was one thing. I always have so many takeaways from Bobby, but he was saying, I don't care what other people do. I don't care what other coaches are doing. I don't care what anyone's doing, because he's trying to be the best of that, what he does.
And he works with what teams there?
I'm not sure. Basketball's, other ones, not football, but a lot of the Olympic sports.
The Olympic sports.
But that was crazy for me. He's like, I don't care what other people do. I'm just trying to do what I do the best, because
so
he's been around for so long that it's what.
Who do you say he's learning from? Like, does he look online?
So he's always reading books. Maybe not really around training, but dude, training is the same. It's squatting, it's deadlifting, it's sprinting, it's jumping. And it's the same thing year after year after year. Yeah.
Then it's the variations.
What he's trying to come from is getting the autonomy, where athletes come in and you kind of guide them, but they have this process that they're engaged in, and they're not coming in and you're being a disciplined coach that's just, like a military, because that's just not how it works.
Did you observe a training session there or no?
A bit. But one thing Bobby was, we were talking about the simplicity. So talking about the genius, how you have genius is good and intelligence is good, and all these smart people, all these smart ideas are very good, but what is the best? Simple is the best.
How did you get in touch with Bobby if he's not on?
Bobby, so I was at Youngstown State, and we had one of our women's soccer coach came in my first year, and he had worked at Cal U, so that's how I met Bobby. I went out to see Bobby one day, and he used to be a military strength coach. He used to be the bodybuilder, and he treated everyone like that, very disciplined. Everyone needs to be here exactly on time, and you need to do everything exactly perfect. And then after about 5 years, it was like, this doesn't work. This is not going to work.
Supposedly, like Shelton Stevens told me that, so I'm not sure if he's still he's with a special forces group somewhere down in North Carolina. but he was saying like he could have 50 different programs going on for, one guy might say he wants to build muscle. One guy might say he likes CrossFit, or I want something that Jim Jones did in, 2002. I need to get strong. So he's on the powerlifting. Hey, I want to learn Olympic lifting. So he said he's got a ton of different programs for the special forces guys versus here's what we're doing today, because you're creating a program that matches what they want emotionally and what they need physically. That's, I think, when you're getting to a high level. Well, we do something here. I mentioned like when COVID happened, I furloughed our coaches, and I'm coaching and running this thing 6 days a week. And then one day I was like, I'm fucking so tired of running this warm up and I'm bored of it. So I said, all right, you guys run the warm up, whatever you want. Take medicine balls, dumbbells. I don't care. You want to go run across the street, play football, do whatever you want. So they one dude picked up a kid and carried him. And this is like September after COVID. So I'm like, we haven't shook, everybody's like elbow, fist bumping shit. He fucking grabbed the kid. I was like, finally, we're back to like human shit. Then it became a medicine ball dodgeball in here, which I don't know how nobody's fucking head got split open. I was like, holy crap. Then they did like ultimate football across the street. Then I said, you know what? Create your own workout. So the warm-ups were going so good. I said, it's Wacky Wednesday. Create your own workout. The only rule is there are no rules. So don't put something together that's perfect. Don't do a 5 sets of 3 squat coupled with, 3 jumps, coupled with whatever, and iso hold. Like, do something stupid. So it became something like 17 bench press, followed by 7 curls, followed by 7 landmine presses, like, bench curl press, like total opposite of what you want. And I felt that by doing some of that, they had great training sessions. Like I think you need that like imperfection, not imperfection of technique, but imperfection of programming to get them tough. Yeah. Like for the kind of just like doing shit that makes no sense, because sports, as you know, has so much of this. I always say there's no absolutes. So I love listening to I'd love to hear what books that guy Bobby Sapisi's reading.
Yeah. So yeah, dude, and also like James Smith is like, I always bring up like how old is strength conditioning? Is it 80 years or 100? How old is it? How long has it been around? The
profession?
Yeah.
Alvin Roy is supposedly the father of strength and conditioning. So I think that started for him like in the late 60s. But then the first college strength coach was what's his name over at Nebraska? Boyd Epley.
Yeah. So
it was like 72. So let's say it's my age. It's like they're almost 50 years old.
Yeah. So it's like you're talking about the workout can't be perfect and it can't make sense, whatever. But it's like this field's been around for what then? Like 60, 70 years. It's like it's barely been around at all. So how do we know that anything is correct or incorrect? How do we know these things? So it's like and also you take sports, it's like take the game of basketball. It's like that's been around for hundreds of years.
Right.
They didn't even have lifting back then. So to say a basketball player has to do this and this and this, they don't actually have to do anything. They just got to play basketball.
You're right.
So a kid comes into the weight room and it's like the session has to start off with something explosive, then a strength, then a bodybuilding.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to. It can be whatever, as long as you're not hurting people.
No, as long as you're not hurting people. And even speaking of that, it's like sometimes I'll program jumps later in a training session because to me, that makes sense. Why am I, all right, I'm jumping in the beginning because my nervous system is fresh and supposedly it has a better transfer. I'm able to I'm able to gain more from jumping early. But what about emotionally knowing that, all right, I got to jump this box. I'm tired. That's the same as having to make plays under fatigue. Not the same, but you know what I'm saying? You're requiring your body to do something. And so that's why I love coaching, because the kids don't really know what's run through my mind with that kind of, test and challenge. But I'm also very transparent. Like Jake, I'll tell people, like sometimes I feel like what I did 10, 15 years ago was better because I wasn't as smart and I didn't overthink things. Like, see this tire here? It's fucking barely gets flipped. Barely. We had at my first gym a tire that was like another 100 pounds heavier with kids that weighed 130 flipping a 650. I didn't really know better. I wasn't like scared. Now I'm always like, oh my God, you're this, you're that. And I think it like screws up the whole, it kind of screws up the whole thing, which is like, I was watching this young Russian wrestler. I think he's from Dagestan training. And like every pull-up was half rep. And nobody was like, extend your arms, like no rep, you know what I'm saying? But the kid's like a savage, training the wrong way. Or I'm watching them do hill sprints. There's zero technology in Dagestan, which it's like this small population, but like per wrestler, like the amount of Olympians they produce is like 100 times greater than the amount of wrestlers we have with all the technology.
Yeah.
So
I've seen something similar with the Jamaica sprinters. Like I could be wrong. The little bit I did see was like their workouts did not make any sense.
Correct.
And we have all this technology here and all this understanding. We still can't beat them.
The Stronger Experts team goes down there, and I know Justin Kavanaugh went out there. Travis Mash went out there. I'm not sure what software or technology they have, but like also the way they eat was supposedly quote unquote not correct.
Yeah.
Like it's like high carbohydrate. It's like some high carbs, not a lot of protein, and they also live in pretty shitty conditions. Yeah. So nobody's getting Normatec on their legs or any of that stuff.
One thing too with the jumping, like after workout, it's like which makes no sense based off if you'd read these textbooks and you'd say, okay, do your dynamic warm up, and then your central nervous system is fresh, so you're going to be at your highest vertical jump. Whereas if you did it 60 minutes later, it's going to be lower because you're fatigued. The best times that I dunk basketballs is after 30 minutes or 60 minutes or 90 minutes of basketball running up and down the court. That's my best vertical jump.
Why? Because you're
my best dunking
like,
sessions.
Just like
I don't know.
I don't know.
But maybe it could be because I'm older. When I was younger, I think with a young kid, they don't need much warm up to reach their max in a jump or their max sprint. Yeah. But if you take an Olympic level sprinter, they're warming up for like 30, 60 minutes before they get their max sprint. So for me, as I'm older and as my vertical jumps went up, my best dunking, like I was dunking with Bobby, and it's like 45 minutes in, I'm finally jumping very high,
What does he say about it?
I don't know how I am.
He's older than you, right?
He's older. I think he was fatigued in that day, so like he probably would have the same case. But if you come in with a high amount of fatigue, you're not going to jump good anyways. It's crazy. I think one thing just to try to figure out why that would be the case is I think if you look at your feet, the elasticity or stiffness, whatever you want to say, of your feet, because everything has to go through your feet into the ground. Right. Feet take a long time to warm up. Yeah. For you to jump as high as you can, especially with a running jump, your feet take a long time to warm up. So getting thousands of contacts of basketball, running up and down, moving laterally, going up and down, that helps. And then getting the brain warmed up with all of the visual stimulus of basketball, of the vestibular system, where like you're moving there and up and down. Yeah. Getting your whole body like wired up by playing basketball. Because if you play basketball, you play competitive basketball, you feel pretty freaking wired, more than like anything else you can do. And then you get in that state, you're going to jump pretty high after that.
So thinking of that, I think of like, I'll be at my school and I'll just see a kid like run up and grab rim, right? A younger kid. And then also you're talking about how wired basketball makes you. With my studying of wrestlers, you would see in the 60s Russians playing basketball, but it was more like we actually warmed up the football team. We called it Russian basketball. Like you could run with the ball, you could kind of rip with people. We saw kids get clothesline, but it's just running, jumping, cutting. It's the ultimate in athleticism. Yeah. All that movement, what's too very cool, like with mentioning Bobby, is like I would watch some of his videos. The drills are so open. It's not like closed loop. Yeah. There's just like a lot of movement to it. And I'm thinking to myself, geez, that's coaching. Meaning this, I've mentioned on other podcasts, this town, small town, the girls basketball was ranked top 20 in the country. Guess how many times I watched girls play pickup basketball here in 10 years, 11 years? 0. They all go to a club and have this organized travel team, this and that. But I think back to the first kid I ever trained was a basketball player. So the way I trained him was he went and borrowed his dad's truck to help me pick up weights. And I said, Kurt, I'll train you all summer for free. And we did deadlifts. We trained with a barbell, a squat stand, and dumbbells. And then in my backyard, we'd lift stones and we'd sprint hills, jump. He would jump on picnic tables. But I remember he started dunking just from getting strong. But I remember saying, Kurt, when you could hang with the guys at Roosevelt Park, you could be a varsity basketball player. It's like, you got to play street ball. Back then, there was no, in this area, there's like a big called hoop group. It's like a massive basketball thing. Where we were, there was nowhere to go but this park, and the adults played. And it was like always just shy of a street fight, and guys would fight. So it's like, if you could hang with those guys, you can play. And same thing with a friend of mine. She was a college basketball player. She would play at Roosevelt Park against the guys. I was like, damn, you play against the guys? She's like, absolutely. That's what made her, that open playing, which is missing.
Yeah.
I know your buddy, our friend does that, Joel.
Joel Smith.
Yeah, he has like a day where there's like free play at his gym.
Yeah,
like,
so I went and trained with Joel.
Yes,
he did like we did a training session. And it
on
was
like a Wednesday, he does like a free.
Okay, yeah. So he's just like we did. It was the first time I've done. I think it was reps until disinterested. You just do something until you're tired of it, then you move on.
Of what exercise?
So it was part of his warm up. We did some foot stuff to kind of get the foot moving, the calcaneus moving, and then it was like parallel bars, just doing in and outs, and then you're doing a dead hang, and then you're doing some hops and whatever. And
gymnastic parallel bars.
So it's just like go until you're bored of it, and then go to the next one. And do that until you're bored of it, then go to the next one. And then you got some techno music in the back, so kind of doing it to the beats.
Yes.
Trying to get some rhythm, and then we did some hurdle hops and some plyos, but then a little bit of lifting. But just going back, man, like just the right and the wrong way that doesn't really exist.
I think the ultimate gym setup, since you mentioned like the parallel bars, would be kind of what Bobby has. You have a basketball court for any kind of games you want, whether it's dodgeball, basketball, Russian basketball, ultimate football, ultimate frisbee. You have an area with weights, definitely like Olympic lift, kind of like a physical culture area. And maybe even an area with like some machine stuff, like a belt squat for somebody who's feeling beat up, lap pulls, like a lot of kind of bits and pieces. My college gymnastics instructor was also an All-American wrestler. So he would have us hand walk on parallel bars, 10 dips, hand walk backwards, 10 leg raises. So I learned that shit. I think I was 20 when I was in his class. We still do that stuff here when we warm up. We'll do cartwheels, jumps, buddy carries, all that shit.
Yeah.
When I get away from it, I feel like we get less athletic. Yeah. Let's what do you want to close out with so we could export this video? Do you want to talk about?
So let's do based off all that, because we started off with the knee pain thing.
And knee pain, some career stuff.
The knee pain was so you talk about all these things that you're doing, and it's kind of, I hate this phrase, but it's like checking the boxes.
Correct.
I hate the phrase because it's kind of like made up boxes.
Yeah.
You can't really justify why these boxes exist. Like you have to hit a squat and a hinge and this and that. It's probably smart to do, but it's not written in stone that you have to do this stuff. So anyways, going back to you're trying to get a kid to perform better, vertical jump, or you're trying to rehab someone from pain and injury. And my story is like, I'm one of those guys, I get that patellar tendon pain, patellofemoral pain, and man, I got all the heavy lifting in. I'm strong, I lift like 5, 6, 7 days a week. I'm super strong, but I went out to California and my knees were just bugging me. I was in California for about 3 months. My knees were bugging me so bad.
This past year?
Yeah, my knees were bugging me bad. I would go out, do a dunk session twice a week, maybe. I'd lift heavy weights all the time, but I wasn't playing any basketball. And then I went to Minneapolis in the summer when I got that job. Yeah. And I started playing basketball about 4, 5, 6 hours a week. My knee pain went away completely.
Why?
I think it's getting the volume with my ankles, getting the strength, endurance, the work capacity of my legs in the elastic fashion. Because dude, my legs were really strong. My legs were really strong. I was getting the dunk sessions in, so I was getting the max effort jumps in, but I was getting no volume. I was getting no capacity of my legs, no capacity of my ankles. It's like the way I look at it. How do you make your wrist strong? You pick things up day after day after day. That's You get some pretty strong wrists. You can do isolated wrist training. That's good.
Right.
But a lot of people get strong just by picking things up because it's at the end of your arm and it recovers so fast. Your foot is at the end of your leg. It recovers fast. Walking can be a stimulus on it, but the best stimulus is playing something like basketball, getting thousands of foot contacts over and over and over. And when you don't get that and you start to get knee pain, that could be one of the reasons, because the capacity of your ankles has went down. Your ankles aren't doing as much as they used to. And now maybe, I don't know for sure, maybe the knee has to take a little bit more. So you're looking at checking the boxes, which I kind of hate, but it is kind of accurate that if you are not doing all these things to develop an athlete or develop someone or take someone out of pain, there's usually something obvious that's missing. Because if you take these kids, you take a football kid and all you do is a dynamic warm up and then heavy lifting, you miss out on the free play aspect. Yes. And you're going to be missing something there. But if you take a kid in and you only do free play and you do no lifting, now the kid might be weak. So it's like trying to piece in all of these things. And when someone has a problem and they're not performing well or they're in pain, you can look at all those things and say, there's something obvious that always is missing. There has to be something obvious that's not being taken care of, and let's take care of it. Let's keep it in the program.
Athleticism and I think strength and conditioning, it's like an umbrella. There's a lot of different stuff under that umbrella, and sometimes you tend to like go too much in one end of the spectrum, and then you have to find all the bits and pieces of it. So great stuff. So Jake, we got your three training courses. We've got hypertrophy clusters, which I've got. We've got your jumper's knee, right? It's called the jumper's knee.
Jumper's knee protocol. Yeah.
And then we've got the vertical jump. It's called vertical jump
protocol. Yeah.
Vertical jump protocol. And then great stuff on YouTube, jackedathlete.com.
Yep.
And also Jacked Athlete podcast, which is awesome. Your YouTube channel is great, man.
Yeah,
it's great. And then of course on Instagram, Jake Tuura with 2 U's, right? TUU or TUURA. And people could reach out to you for consulting. They should pick up the programs. I actually was implementing a lot of stuff from the hypertrophy clusters. I say this often. I go, you got to buy other programs to get out of your own head, because then you end up doing the same shit. So I started like pushing the volume in an appropriate timing. Like we had an off season. All right, we got a lot of time. It was COVID. Sports were delayed or minimized. We could do a lot of volume. So it was like, oh, we're doing, 8 sets of 8. It was like, oh shit, blowing up. Everybody getting blown up. And it was something I needed to get out of my own head, because when you're coaching a lot and sometimes you're repeating the same stuff, you're like, man, I got to just go completely off the chart. And then of course, as a coach, you always want to get better. So that's it, guys. Strong Life Podcast. If you're here on YouTube, drop a comment or question below. Check out Jake's YouTube channel as well. And all the other resources we just said. What else you got? Anything else, Jake?
Get glazed.
Get glazed. Whee! All right, guys. See you later, and thank you.